Hello.
We're here.
And my wife's doing the camera, just in case you
Counting?
didn't catch that. Right, exactly. Dr. Jack Kevorkian, or Dr. Death as those in the media might call him, once said, "As a medical doctor, it is my duty to evaluate the situation with as much data as I can gather, and as much enterprise as I have, and as much expertise as I have, to determine whether or not the wish of the patient is medically insisted, or medically justified as well." Later on in the same speech, he stated, "My intent was to carry out my duty as a doctor, to end their suffering. Unfortunately, that sometimes entailed, in some cases, ending of their life." Because I agree with Dr. Kevorkian and many other doctors like him in the United States, I strongly believe that the United States government should legalize physician-assisted suicide. Today in my speech, I'll cover three main topics of why the United States government as a whole should legalize physician-assisted suicide, and that it should not be left on a state-by-state cases. The first subject will be why physician-assisted suicide is needed in America. The second will be stories of individuals who urge that the United States government carry out these assisted suicides. And the last will be an urging of you to speak with your congressman or your congresswomen on your beliefs of why assisted suicide should be legalized. So why is this a nation as a whole ordeal and not a local issue? According to the CDC, 20.1 million people in the United States have been diagnosed with terminal cancer. 1 in 9 adults over the age of 65 has Alzheimer's disease. Assisted suicide is already legal in 4 states, Washington and Oregon being 2 of those. Legalizing a humane way for individuals diagnosed with death sentences to end one's life is taking a way that's not cruel and unusual and allowing them to die with dignity. Death by dignity is going to be the key focus of my speech today. Pain and suffering will be diminished not only by the individual that suffers from the disease, but by the family as a whole. Men and women are suffering from variations of illnesses and diseases. And not allowing them the choice in their life violates countless principles that this country was built upon. Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Death, who was mentioned earlier in my speech, took care of 130 patients and he held their hands while they suffered from pain, dementia, not knowing who their own family members were. He held their hands in their most fetal and most horrible times and stood back next to their beds and issued them into the next life. He served 8 years of a 10 to 15 year sentence for doing and carrying out the wishes of his patients. He didn't kill anybody that came to him saying that they wanted their lives to be prolonged. He took the lives of individuals that already felt like they already had a death sentence placed upon them and wanted to go out with dignity. Alzheimer's disease causes various symptoms. Of those various symptoms, rapid memory loss. The central nervous system begins to decompose. And metabolic ailments like vitamin deficiencies, kidney and liver failure, and infections will set upon that individual that has that disease. With terminal cancer, pain, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sleep problems. These are all symptoms that happen in the last 2 to 3 months of life. And also another terminal illness, which is advanced heart disease, fatigue, weight gain, weight loss, shortness of breath, pain, and soreness, all accompany individuals in their last moments and last hours. For some, a horrible end is in sight. But that horrible end doesn't have to be for everyone. Another way is available. There are a couple different drugs that both Washington and Oregon, which were states that were mentioned earlier in the speech, use. Pentobarbital and serobarbital are such drugs. The former is used in euthanasia of humans as well as animals. In the Netherlands, where assisted suicide is legal, intravenously, the drug is administered intravenously, followed by a sedative, and like bromide, to induce respiratory arrest. These individuals are practically coaxed to sleep and drift off with no pain, with no agony, with no suffering into the next life. That word dignity takes a very special place in my heart. There's an individual on the Death with Dignity website named Deborah Dempsey. She's a doctor of audiology in Massachusetts. And her last wishes while she's on this earth, as she's suffering from a terminal cancer that's left her bald, her figure completely disformed, her last wishes is to die with dignity. To quote her, she says that she wishes to die in a way that exemplifies how she has lived her own life. So with that dignity, we know that the time for change is now. The rights of the individual outweigh the rights of the many. That's what this country was founded upon, the rights of the individual. A patient who has been given a diagnosis of practically death deserves to die the way that they see fit. The Los Angeles Times in 2005 wrote an article, and in that article they state, quote, "We'll all die. Death can be suspended for some, but when do we stop doing all that we can do? These personal decisions should not be left to government officials and bureaucrats who argue about highway funding. But because government officials run this country, I urge our senators, our state senators, our local senators to speak with our United States government. I urge you to contact Congressman Yoder, who's over our district. Tell him the rights of the few outweigh the rights of the many. That individuals deserve to die with dignity, and they deserve to have their voices heard. Thank you.